I'll turn the sound up, Pete, and then people can hear what we're saying.
Bring my microphone in.
That was smooth, wasn't it? I got sidetracked.
To be honest with you, I'm still reeling from what we have just seen. That was mind blowing in so many ways.
Was it not what you were expecting, Pete?
Let's come back to that.
Okay.
I'm really excited. Can anyone hear us, by the way?
I'm sure it's all going. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our live stream. Hopefully you really enjoyed the Apple event. I think it was quite an exciting...
It was. Bit of a ride, wasn't it?
Right. I'm sort of reeling from looking at the prices of all of these things on the Apple Store. So, but we're going to get to that.
Can't be heard.
Okay. Hang on a second. All right. Have we got nothing at all? Yeah. No. Someone's saying.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Right. Sorry about that.
We did test everything before we started, but who knows? Gremlins can happen on live shows. So just we've got the setup here. So Pete and I will be presenting to you from the front. We've got a screen in front of us. So if it looks like we're looking down, it's because we are. We've got a monitor here, and we've got a bunch of your comments coming up. And over to our right, we've got Tom and Erin. So Tom's just sneaking into view there. He didn't want to be on camera, but we've got an Erin who looks really dark for some reason. But
like her humour.
Yeah. Erin's going to be looking at your comments, and she's going to put a few up on the screen as we go through the process. Yeah. Lots of excitement about the Macs. So should we take the Apple approach and talk about HomePod first?
Well, blue, yellow, and orange. Can you imagine if you were an Apple employee and Tim comes up to you and says, "We'd like you to present a part of the Apple event." It's like, great, thank you so much. Yeah, we want you to just announce the new HomePods. Oh, okay, great. What features have they got? Blue, orange, and yellow. Okay, that's what we're leading with. And what features have they got? It's like, no, that's it. That's your segment. I felt so sorry for him.
It's on when they're announcing the new Mac chips as well. I mean, poor chap. Well, perhaps you're very excited about the HomePod Mini being available in yellow. I know Erin was terribly excited when she saw the opportunity for yellow, and you might be excited as well at the option of a cheaper Apple Music plan. And this is the voice plan, which is available for just $4.99. I think that's dollars.
That is dollars.
Yeah, I suspect it will also be £4.99 in English.
Probably.
Money. Yeah,
because the exchange rate is 1-to-1.
According to Apple, it is. And they've put together a whole bunch of new playlists so that you can use Siri to
cook.
Get a playlist for cooking. I noticed there was a playlist for tailgating, Pete.
Was there a playlist for tailgating?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. So that's music. AirPods. Should we just rattle through that as well, and then we'll get on to what everybody really wants to talk about?
Yeah. So there's some new AirPods.
Excellent.
Right, moving on.
Are you excited about the AirPods in any way, Pete?
J2 Simpson says the HomePods lead the event to show the massive balls Apple had with those new MacBooks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can just imagine some Intel executives watching it and going, "They're leading with HomePods. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." And then
I just thought it would be more of the sound of bricks falling.
Because windows opening.
Oh dear, Intel. Yeah, I wonder where their ad campaign will go next. Because it would seem now that you will be able to game on your Mac quite happily, provided you want to pay the entry price, of course.
Yeah. So I suppose we probably ought to ask, after what you've seen today, who will be getting one straight away? Who's putting in their order tonight? I'd like to know that.
Yeah, I was all set, I think, to order one right after the event when they said it was available, and then I couldn't make any kind of decision. So, and Pete's still umming and ahhing. Pete's convinced that he needs the Pro Max with the 64 gigs.
Yeah, I am convinced, because people will want to know how performant it is.
I'm sure they will, but the amount of YouTube revenue we get versus the price of those things, I'm not sure about that. So what are people saying? Are you going for
Gardner is saying, "I'm ordering now. Hard to choose a size." I know. I'm leaning towards the 14-inch.
I think if you can get all of the fun of the 16-inch in the 14-inch chassis, that's where I would go. And there are some interesting things, and we will come back to this, but there are additional SKUs, aren't there? And additional,
Yes.
they're using bin CPUs for some of these models. But I think there's so much to talk about, and we're excited, and we need to just
You need to calm down.
We need to calm down and start at the beginning. But okay, Evil Umpire says tailgating is having a party in the car park of a sporting event. Now, yes, now you've said that, I know that. Of course, in Britain, tailgating is driving, 1 foot behind the car in front, being really aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Keith Shepherd is sticking with his Air, but it's exciting to see the power lineup. I think that's probably a bit of a theme we're going to get. I don't imagine lots of people are going to be shelling out the kind of money that's required for these things.
No, they are horrendously expensive. Well, thank you very much to Second City Saint.
You're very generous.
Very kind of you there.
Rest in peace, the PC Performance Crown. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you haven't got a seriously top-end PC, then this is going to beat it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably going to give your Lenovo workstation a run for its money.
It might do. What sort of PC are you running, Second City Saint? Or not at all? Are you just happy to see the demise of the PC?
Thank you for the contribution.
Yeah, it's very kind of you.
$50 closer to my 64 gigabytes of unified memory. So
amazing.
I think 14 is probably the way to go.
Yeah, Daisy in the Rain is taking a different route. I did see a comment from you on Twitter earlier about the potential price of it. You're going for the MacBook Air. Well, I think that's a fantastic choice. The M1 MacBook Air, for the majority of people, is just an absolutely outstanding machine.
Darkright says I'm going to be it's all too expensive, so I'm going to be sticking with the Abacus.
I'm sure our developers, if you're new to the channel, welcome first of all, thanks for watching. And if you're not watching live, if you're watching after the event, then thanks for tuning in. So Pete and I run a web studio together, a web agency. So we have quite a few staff who are all running on Macs, and I imagine we might get some requests coming in. Yeah. Erin, put your hand down.
Yeah. You don't need any of that. You don't need any of that. You need to be productive in order to.
You need to learn how to use a computer first, Erin.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's rude. So rude. I was actually going to read this comment
by
Mozart Lewis, who says, oh, no, not that one. It says, honestly, as a music composer and video content producer, this is a godsend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, those are the guys that are really pushing machines to the max, and it's absolutely being able to do that portable on battery, that's going to be absolutely amazing.
Incredible.
Someone else is being very generous.
Jan Eric Edvardsson, I think. I hope I get that right.
Is it Jan or Jan?
Jan or Jan, don't know.
Does it run Crysis? Well, what did they say about the GPU performance?
Let me have a look. You keep talking.
I'm pretty sure they said 4 times the 5600M in the 16-inch MacBook Pro currently, and that would place it. I need to look it up, which I will do later. I'll have a look at the Geekbench scores, but yeah, I'd say it can run anything.
Pretty much. Yeah, I'm just trying to find the actual where it mentions, because they did compare it to the 5600M, didn't they?
Oh, is that a bit of a meme comment though? Anyway, does it run Crysis? I've never played Crysis, so if I've missed the humor there, I apologize. I think it will be absolutely amazing for gaming. Yeah.
Anyway, interesting comment here from Caroline Barlow. What's with the bin chips on the Pro? Well, you know what the reason for that is, because we spotted that as well. That's how they can get to that entry point on price. Yeah.
So they're using the difficult to know exactly what the context of the question is, but so for those who don't know what a bin chip is, let's just quickly cover that off. So the fabrication process for any kind of silicon is not foolproof, and you get chips that just don't meet performance criteria. Maybe they don't run at the right frequency. Maybe some cores aren't working as expected. So what they'll do is switch those cores off and sell it as a different chip. And Intel have done this for years. You know, if you buy an i3, it's it might be an i5 that's had cores switched off, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they do that just to make it more efficient, a more efficient process. Apple is using this specifically, I think, to get those entry prices, because I think if they'd said the 14-inch MacBook Pro is starting at it's £2,400 here in the UK, I think a lot of people would balk at that. But they're saying £1,900 in the UK. Well, you can sort of say, oh yeah, that's okay. But they were quite cute, I think, in that they didn't feature that in the event, did they?
Yeah, no, they didn't. Interesting comment there. If you put any form of configuration in beyond the sort of headline ones, it pushes out the dates to November, which we did notice.
Yeah, I suspect those dates will slip pretty quickly, actually. In fact, that already looks like it's slipped, because when I was looking at that earlier, Pete, it was saying 29th of October.
Now it's this live stream before I order. And someone saying, what Second City saying, what configs are we getting? Don't know. I really don't know. I want to get the 14-inch, because with that screen size and those thinner bezels, I think that will be all I need.
Have you done another donation, Second CC? You are some.
Thank you very much.
That's very kind of you.
Very kind. Very
Wow.
kind.
I'm constantly amazed, actually, at just how lovely our YouTube audience is.
Of unified memory. Carry on.
I don't know what config to get. I before the event happened, I was absolutely sure it would be a 14-inch with whatever was the. I suppose I was expecting the Pro, 32 gigs of RAM, and yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess the benefit you get with going up to 64 gig is you're getting that additional video performance. So if you're gaming on your laptop, or you're going to be doing any kind of video editing and stuff, I suppose that's what you'd want to consider.
Yeah, and that's why I'm thinking, just genuinely, because I'm really curious about all the video tests we ran last year on the M1. I'd love to see those same tests on as maxed out as I can reasonably afford, because I'm going to be buying this personally, so it's going to be pretty painful. Someone did ask, I think it was Demantra Beats or Dimantra Beats, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, about is there a difference in the nits between the displays? They didn't make a differentiation. I think it's the same.
Yeah, so why don't we just we'll take a pause from the comments for a second. We'll just do a bit of a run through. I mean, I know you guys have probably all watched the event. Some of you might not have done, but let's just run through a few of these points without going over it too much. So I think one of the interesting things is with M1, lots of people were talking obviously about M1X being based on newer architecture, like the cores that are in the A15, but I'm not getting that impression. I'm getting the impression that this is M1 expanded upon. Yep. They've increased the memory bandwidth. So in even the entry level, it's not entry level, but the Pro chip, you're getting 3 times the memory bandwidth of M1. Now, why that's good for you is the CPU and the GPU are sharing that memory. So if the bandwidth is higher, that's going to improve GPU performance beyond just I've got more GPU cores or I've got more CPU cores. Everything's going to happen a bit faster. And it's already ludicrously fast on M1, isn't it? So
yeah, stunningly so.
So, and the Pro Max is out at 32 gigabytes. So basically you've got what it seems to me is it's like the M1 had a 16 gigabyte on package memory module to one side, and now you've got a memory module on either side. So you're up to 32 gigabytes.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's dual channel RAM or quad channel RAM in that configuration.
Don't know. They did say 200 gigabits of memory bandwidth on the Pro.
No, it's gigabytes.
Pro, gigabytes on the M1 Pro, and double that again, so 400 on the M1 Max.
Yeah, and that then had 4 packages of RAM, didn't it, to either side? So that I'm assuming that is quad channel. Both the CPUs, assuming then you're not getting the binned versions, have 10 cores, and this is what we expected. It's 8 high efficiency cores and 2 low power cores. So I got that wrong. 8 power cores.
And 2 high efficiency cores. Yeah, it is what we were expecting.
It is
33.7 billion transistors, which is a meaningless number.
It's a lot. I think you'll find it's a lot, and at least one more than 32.
Yeah, but the Pro Max, I'm still trying to get my head around these names, is 57 billion transistors.
Yeah,
which is more again.
That is. We keep calling it the Pro Max, but it's not. It's just the M1 Max.
That's
and someone did call us. That got leaked, didn't it? The names for the chips got leaked. So M1 Pro and M1 Max. I heard that before the event. Quite interesting that you've got a better media engine now, and they've added ProRes into the media engine. So what the media engine does is encoding and decoding of high efficiency video codecs, things like HEVC, so H.265 and also H.264. But now they've added ProRes, which is what that really expensive afterburner card does in the Mac Pro. So I wonder if they've replaced that. We'll have to just take a pause there because Jan has very kindly donated. Is that Norwegian krona? Have I got that right?
It may well be. I'll look
That's
it up
very
while
kind of you. Thank you.
comment.
Thank you so much. Will we reach a scenario where Pro apps, Cinema 4D, Maya, etc. on Apple Silicon will have more exclusive features not possible on x86, like machine learning AI, like what happened in the console versions of the new FIFA? Yes. I think absolutely. That's not to say that x86 chips are incapable of doing machine learning, but typically in an x86 environment, you offload that to the GPU.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the NVIDIA cards do, isn't it?
Yeah, they have a similar thing. So I can definitely see that happening. I think if software developers can work with a system like Mac OS and get those kind of performance benefits, then they're going to focus on those.
And that's why they could do it in the consoles, is because I think I'm right in saying in some of the consoles, if not all of them, they are x86 architecture. Am I right in saying that?
Oh, someone might know better than me. I know it's AMD.
The Xbox. Yeah. But the key is that they have a known set of hardware to work with. So they've got control over hardware and software, essentially. Whereas obviously in the general Windows world, you haven't got that, whereas Apple Silicon has. So it's possible to do it, but obviously Apple have everything controlled together. And they talked about how Mac OS tightly integrates with the software. It all works together to give this incredible performance. Yes.
This must be really exciting for Apple, because what they're seeing here is the realization of years of work. And it started with the software frameworks, Metal, things that people weren't too happy about at the time when they were implemented, but Apple has kept working on it. They've made these consistent APIs for developers. They're making it easier in some respects to code for their systems. So, and they've got that tight optimization. So this just must feel great for them.
Yeah, it is a watershed moment today. I know we said that when the M1 came out in Apple Silicon, but this is their moment to shine. They've worked so hard for this, and it is really exciting for us. I'm still quite shaky through excitement, not through the prices. Those are another thing to talk about, but yeah, very, very exciting.
All right, we'll come back to the chips again in a minute. I just want to take up James Elliott's comment there, because he says he doesn't want to leave the live stream, but wants to see what this notch thing is about. Now, Tom was taking screenshots all through the event, and unfortunately something's gone awry, hasn't it, Tom? So we can't show you the notch. But if you imagine a notch on a phone and then apply that to your MacBook Pro, that is indeed what it is.
Yeah, I don't know if
you won't be able to see that from there. No,
maybe not.
Perhaps Tom, could you just if you could call up a picture of it, and then maybe we can throw that up on the stream in a moment.
So basically, if you imagine that little black tab at the top, which looks really great in dark mode, apparently.
I can't believe she said that.
The thing is, I don't want to detract from this, because I think this was a really amazing event, and I actually think what they've done is they've made the best design decision they could, having got a notch, which is to make the status bar part of it. Obviously, if you hide the status bar, then you're not gonna have that joy. But I mean, it's going to sit on the menu bar. I think because the screen has so much resolution, hopefully most apps will avoid it. But I'm thinking of DaVinci Resolve, which kind of has its own UI, likes its own way of behaving.
Yeah, they're going to have to make some modifications. I'm sure they already have.
Yeah.
Any joy with that picture, Tom, of the notch? Can we get that up for everyone to have a look at?
Yeah, and I agree with Halvard Lund there. The notch won't matter because the status bar, no problem. I do tend to agree with you. I don't really. Yeah,
you can just about see it. I mean, obviously they've been very careful with all of their product images, just like they did when their notch came out on the iPhone. They've chosen dark images to not show it. But when they had the Mac in light mode, it was very noticeable.
Yeah. Although Mike Newmayer does make a really good comment here. I hope I've got your surname right, Mike. Full screen apps will just make the top block. Sorry,
Top
it's moved. Where is it? The screens are 16:10 now. You clicked the wrong one. Sorry, Erin.
Sorry.
So the menu bar is essentially in extra screen real estate. So what we're basically saying is it's not really going to matter. And I tend to agree with that. I think it will be fine.
It's very divisive. Thanks for the image, Tom. I don't know how well we can see that, but it is very divisive. I know it's going to upset people a lot. It's not. I mean, someone there saying that David Van Straten, the notch remains ugly. Yes, it is ugly. It's. I don't personally see the issue with bezels. There seems to be this fixation with making really tiny bezels on screens. I don't have an issue with, say, the bezel on my iPad Pro. I'd be quite happy with a laptop having that same size bezel.
Yep.
So it is one of those things. Am I going to let it spoil the new MacBook Pro? I don't know. I don't want to get angry about it because then I can't have a MacBook Pro and I'll be stuck with the M1 version. Then what will I do, Pete? How will I send my emails and do my Excels with just an
How
M1?
will you process words?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the other things that are on this chip as well. We just mentioned about the media engine, so we're going to get more encoding. This is really good news for video editors.
Oh, yeah.
If you're using ProRes, of course. I tend to use B-Raw, so that's not going to help me. Additional Thunderbolt controllers. That's very welcome, I think, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there were limits with the M1, weren't there, and what it could do.
So the M1 had 2 Thunderbolt controllers and 2 ports, but I think it's fair to say that actually Thunderbolt worked okay on things like external drives. It was plenty fast enough, but the USB-C performance we've shown is not quite up to snuff. And there are still quite a few devices that just don't work with M1 on Thunderbolt. So, but anyway, we've got more Thunderbolt controllers. We'll be able to connect more displays, and I've got that listed down here somewhere. So it's you can connect 2 Pro XDR displays on the Pro chip. And on the Max chip, you can connect 3 Pro XDR displays
Plus
and
a TV.
A 4K TV.
That's a lot of pixelation.
It is. So does that mean that the Pro chip can support 2 external displays and the Max chip supports 4 external displays? They didn't say, did they?
No.
I know the Max chip does say up to 4 displays. I remember on the product specs page. If anyone knows the answer to that, you can do some smart Googling. Please leave a comment. So what have we got? Halvard Lund says that we've got a warm type of humour. He hasn't heard any of your jokes, Pete.
Well, I did have one prepared for the beginning of this, but I am honestly, I'm so adrenalined up. I'm so excited about the chips and so bedazzled by the price.
You can't function anymore.
I can't
Pete.
function anymore, but I was going to talk about why most people think that T-Rexes can't clap because their hands are too short and that, but it's because they're extinct. But that was what I had planned.
You see, I have to work with this.
It doesn't add anything, does it?
It doesn't. Demantra Beats has done a bit of research for us. Pro is only 2 displays. Okay. I think that will be a defining factor for some people.
And is it Paisy just above Erin? What was the HDMI spec? We didn't notice because I wanted to know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if perhaps someone can do some of that for me.
Research.
Because hopefully it would be 2.1, but we'll see.
Yeah. Excellent. Good. So we got yes, Garance has made the comment, no mini. Erin's trying to click. I think for Erin, the comments are moving so fast. It's a bit like playing a game of whack-a-mole, and she's trying to find the right comment. I was a little bit surprised. We did say amber, didn't we, when we did the rumor mill for the Mac Mini? We weren't sure whether it would be seen, but slightly disappointed that there isn't a Mac Mini with the M1 Pro in it. I would have thought that would have been possible.
Yeah.
Cool. Jan is just
bankrolling us tonight.
He's determined to make sure you get the M1 that you want, Pete. Thank you so much.
Not the M1 that I need.
When will the Apple Silicon GPU have hardware accelerated ray tracing? Good question. Does the M1 Pro Max have it? Also a good question. A lot of Pro 3D users need this, and it wouldn't hurt in games either. Yeah.
Am I right? I don't know about on the pro side of things, but am I right in thinking that the game has to support that to do it justice?
Yeah, I believe so. I
So-
have a graphics card with ray tracing support in my workstation. I've never played a game with ray tracing support on it. Sorry, Aaron, can you just pop that comment back up for me? Thank you. I've not heard anything about Apple developing that, and I would say they're probably way behind the curve on that kind of stuff. Because the metal framework is something that they took from Power VR, isn't it?
Mm.
Back in the day, the iPhones had Power VR chips, and then Apple basically took the technology. It was a bit of a lawsuit with Imagination Technologies, and now they pay a license fee. Is there any hardware ray tracing in that? I don't know. Could Apple do it? Yes, of course they could. Would it be as good as NVIDIA's?
Well, to begin with.
No, I think we've seen that with AMD's new graphics cards. They can't compete with NVIDIA for ray tracing. So I think that's going to take a bit of time.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That will mean that, there's still going to be a segment of users that are stuck on Intel Macs if they're Mac users. I have to say, this level of pro performance is going to bring a few Intel pros, like music professionals, for example, onto this. Assuming they don't need loads of peripherals and add-in cards.
And it's just not the raw power, is it? It's the fact that you can do this unplugged. That you looked at those charts where they were comparing it. I thought it was one of the most fair comparisons that Apple have done for a long time, because they said we found the fastest Intel laptop we can out there. And yeah, it was more powerful when plugged in, but not massively more, and it was using a lot more wattage. I think 100 watts more. Yeah, what happens when you unplug it? Whereas the M1, I think they were comparing this to the M1 Max. The M1 Max is comparable when the Intel's plugged in, and when it's unplugged, it's just leaves it for dust.
Yeah, of course, on an Intel laptop, you can make it give you full performance. I think for most of them, but
for about 20 minutes.
Yeah,
it's like putting a Tesla into ludicrous mode, isn't it?
Yeah, excellent. Okay, let's carry on looking at this. 32 GPU cores available on the M1 Max. That again, we had that 4 times 5600M performance, didn't we? So I'm just going to nip over to Geekbench. You've got the 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro, but it doesn't have a 5600M in it.
It's a 5300.
53, right? Okay. So but do you play any games on your device? Have you ever been able to do that?
Yeah. I've played Elite Dangerous on it.
Is that a current game, or is that one from your?
No, not
because you are quite elderly, Pete.
In the 80s, the one that came out recently.
Okay. Right.
And it was okay.
Okay, so let's. I'm just having a look on Geekbench, and yeah, I know Geekbench is not the be all and end all when it comes to assessing graphics performance, but the metal score for the 5600M is 42,510. Now, if they're saying that we're going to get 4 times the performance with the M1 Max assuming that they mean across the board, then that's going to push it up to the 160,000 territory. Which is right up there with the RX 6900 XT and the W6900X as seen in the Mac Pro.
That's eye-watering.
And that will definitely gain.
It will definitely gain.
Sorry, Intel. Poor Intel. I don't know why I feel sorry.
Bazit Ali, just quickly, you can charge via Thunderbolt as well as MagSafe, yes.
Yeah. Which is really nice, actually. We're very happy to see MagSafe come back. I don't know why. This is the case with all the ports, isn't it? We've brought back the ports that we took away for no good reason. Yeah,
it was, and removed the touch bar.
Now you've all gone out and bought a load of dongles. We're bringing back all the ports that you bought dongles for. But it's nice to have them back.
Jacob's got himself a 14-inch base configuration, but with upgraded RAM. He can't wait, but he's off now. Thanks for watching, Jacob. It's really nice to have you with us today.
Enjoy the new computer. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, a good thought here on charging. Obviously, these chips they're so much more energy efficient, less heat. They're going to be more efficient, but also charging 50% in 30 minutes. That's pretty good.
That's pretty epic, but you're not going to be charging it that often, are you? It's the battery. So
you're not. So interestingly, depending on which one you get, depends on the wattage of your USB-C power supply.
Yes. So M1 Pro on the 14-inch, you're getting a 67-watt power adapter for the that's on the 8-core, and then on the 10-core you're getting a 96 watt. So could we probably just need to run through those binned options to see what actually is available for the price, because there's quite a few variations by the look of it.
There's loads.
So let's start with that entry level chip. And what it's saying is we're getting an 8-core CPU. Now, what does that mean? How many efficiency cores, how many performance cores? Doesn't say, does it?
Let's have a look.
So I would have thought that would be 6 performance cores and 2 efficiency cores. That would be my expectation, that they've turned off 2 of the performance cores. With that model as well, you're also losing 2 of the GPU cores. So you're getting a 14-core GPU. So in real terms, I would expect, due to the memory bandwidth, this one will be faster than M1 in terms of CPU performance, certainly, but probably not massively faster for most people. And a 14-core GPU is obviously going to be noticeable. You're going to definitely see the performance increase there. When you go up then to the M1 Pro, so this jumping up by £500, you then get that 10-core CPU and the 16-core GPU with 16 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of SSD. Nice to see those kind of specs of SSD.
Yeah, it makes the Pro moniker actually mean something.
Yeah. And the read speeds, they quoted, what was it, 7.4 gigabytes per second read speed on those SSDs. I mean, that is astonishing. Yeah, it's just, it'll copy things and load things up before you even think
blink
about it.
Yeah.
If you select then the 10-core M1 Pro 14-inch, you can then upgrade the CPU again. So there's basically a binned version of the M1 Max, isn't there? So with that one, you're getting all of the CPU cores, but you're losing
24-core GPU.
Yeah. Now that might indicate that that's been quite a challenge for them to get 32 GPU cores on that chip, all running effectively.
You reckon?
Well, why would they have the binned model there if not?
Yeah, that's true.
I could be wrong. Let's do a few more comments whilst we're there. Alexander says, here we go. In my opinion, it's definitely overkill for most people. You're not wrong. M1 is overkill for most people. For most people that are buying an entry-level MacBook Air and getting an M1, I mean,
you're not going to be disappointed.
Not even scratching the surface. So these really are for the pro users. I totally agree. And we are looking at it from the point of view of professionals, I guess, from our working environment. We're still not quite at the point where we're ready to move our developers onto M1 from Intel.
No, although we do have planned a live stream event where we're going to be interviewing, amongst others, a photographer and one of our developers who has been trialing one. So that's coming up.
Yeah, we'll do that. Flying Fox is asking a question. With occasionally Premiere Pro videos, 16 or 32 gigs of RAM? Well, you can definitely edit video on the 16 gig M1, but if you're buying a model that has more GPU cores, why wouldn't you go for 32 gigs of RAM if you can afford it?
Yeah,
I would future-proof it personally.
Always buy, particularly with these devices, because you can't upgrade them. Go for what you can afford, get the maximum you can afford. A lot of it comes down to what codecs you're running as well.
It will, yeah. I mean, if you're working with ProRes, although Premiere doesn't have the same optimizations as Final Cut and Resolve does now. I think Premiere still doesn't have the optimizations. I could be wrong there. Yeah, but if you're running ProRes or HEVC or something, then it's not really going to use the GPU anyway. Tricky one. Someone else has asked, so Stefan is asking, what model and specs are the best for the price? We've literally come out of the Apple event and within 10 minutes we've started live streaming. So I haven't had a chance to go through that yet, but we will, and we'll do a video on that.
And I'm literally shaking with excitement. And the lead times are going out. By the time this event's over, it's going to be January before I get one.
My goodness, it's into December.
Yeah, people are clearly ordering these in their droves, and the high spec ones as well. So
wow, interesting. Pity for Ethernet. Yes, Michaeli says, pity for Ethernet. Well, yeah, it would have been nice to have an Ethernet port, and that's a pretty pro essential. And a 10 gigabit Ethernet port, I would have said.
Just use a dongle though.
Well, you can get a Thunderbolt 10 gigabit. They'll add another 250 quid or something onto your expenditure.
So let's talk about the design for a second then.
Yeah.
What do you think of the look of it? I think I've seen some split opinions on it. Some people love it, some people hate it. It harks back to the older MacBook Pros to me, particularly if you look at that side profile there. Look at that.
Yeah. Do you remember the white polycarbonate MacBooks that we had for a while? I think they did a G4 and then they did Intel versions of them. It's got that kind of look to it. They have gone back to
bit retro,
which is worse what Apple do, isn't it? They kind of cycle their designs and do the same thing with the phones. I'm not a massive fan, I'll be honest, from the side view. I think, but you can't have it both ways. If you want the ports on there,
you've got to have it thicker.
It's got to be a bit thicker. And I have to say, it looks like the lid for the screen is a bit more chunky as well. Look at this. So we've got a comment from Kwang Wu Li. I hope I've said that correctly. What does 64 gigabytes of a unified RAM mean? So unified RAM is the way Apple has designed its silicon is that the RAM sits on package. So you've got the chip itself with all of the cores in it, and then right next to it you've got the RAM running through a really fast interface, and all of the cores on the chip can share that RAM, so it's unified. So your GPU and your CPU, they can share the same address space in the memory, and that means that you're not copying things. So in your traditional gaming PC, for example, you've got to copy things from the system memory over to the graphics card's memory and then back again. Well, that's eliminated with unified memory. So it just makes everything more efficient, and it allows them to get more performance out of less powerful hardware.
Yeah. In actual fact, I think it was Klaus that introduced that bit. He explained that really well. There's a nice animation that explained how a traditional x86 architecture does that compared to how Apple Silicon does it. So it's worth going back and watching that. But we think he was probably listening to some of your videos before that, because you've explained that a few times before.
Possibly. I just saw another comment fly up with regard to Ethernet, which is a very valid point, that 10 gigabit Ethernet requires a lot of energy to work. So having it external is a better option because you probably don't need it on the move. Yeah,
Good
fair point.
Yeah,
fair point.
Very good.
Still, would have been nice to have an Ethernet port of some description on there, or maybe integrated into the power supply like it is on the iMac.
Yeah, they got to keep something back for the next one, haven't they?
So J2 Simpso is saying no touch bar. How am I going to find my emojis now? Well, there's I know you're joking, but there is actually an emoji key on the keyboard now, because they've taken the keyboard design from the iMac, haven't they?
I don't know.
Well, you've got full height function keys and then that sort of Touch ID top right, and it looks very much like the keyboard that comes with the iMac. And if so, it will have an emoji key on it.
So interesting question here from Faisal Abrar, I think. Would the GPU use that 64 gig of RAM? How much better would it be than, say, using a 3080 or something? It's not going to use all of it, because some of it's got to be used for the CPU functions and other parts of the system. So what the beauty of Apple Silicon is that it will use it intelligently. So it will share it over the package. Will it be better than the 3080? That's impossible to answer at the moment. I mean, and better at what? We've got to do some benchmarking about that, and that's what's going to have to be coming up in some videos soon, once we actually decide what we're getting and whether we can get it, because the lead times are going out.
To get it. I think for raw gaming performance, it probably won't outperform a 3080, but I'm purely speculating based on what I think I know. But I suspect there will be some circumstances where it would outperform because of the available memory, I think. So it'll be a mixed bag. I mean, it always is with graphics cards anyway, for different generations, different architectures, all respond in different ways and are better at some things than others. I think we need to wait until we can properly test it. And I think, Pete, you ought to just stick an order in for something before we can't get anything at all. Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. So Apple should sell a touch bar accessory, Sylvian's saying. I don't think that would sell very well. I remember when the original Touch Bar Max came out, and our Apple rep phoned us all excited. What are you gonna get? And it's like, we're not going to get any of them because all of our developers, have their laptop connected to a screen and use a keyboard and mouse. But there we go.
Yeah. Evan, thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you. Very kind.
That's very kind of you. How long will it take Windows laptops to catch up? And happy Apple Day to you, or HAD, as Tim likes to call it.
Well, there are laptops out there with AMD chips in. I'm thinking about is it the 5900 HX, and you can get that with a 3070 or 3080 graphics card. I mean, it's an expensive laptop. It's just not going to compete, is it? It's never going to compete in terms of performance per watt. In terms of raw performance, there might be a couple of laptops out there that can compete, but probably not at the same price point. So how long will it take them to catch up? Very difficult to say. I mean, x86 is still, I think all of them are running on fabrication processes that are larger than Apple's. So Apple's running 5 nanometer.
Although denser, to be fair.
Yeah, and it's not, the gap isn't as wide as you think, because Intel's 14 nanometer is more like TSMC's 10 nanometer. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, don't worry about it. But the smaller the fabrication, the more stuff that you can get into the space. And Apple will be going down to 3 nanometer within the next year or two. And yeah, so long answer to that question. Will they catch up? I don't know. Probably when they change over to ARM or RISC-V, maybe.
Jan, I don't know what we've done to deserve this, but yet another contribution here. Thank you very much.
Very kind.
The 2022 30-inch iMac will have a new Pro version of the M1 Max chip called the M1X Pro. The M1 Pro chip will become a Max version called the M1 Pro Max, with also a 3% smaller notch. Looks great in dark. Thank you for that. I think you should join the podcast, man, frankly. You're loving your... hello, Sunday Racers.
Oh, and we ought to say, if you enjoy listening to two old farts ramble on about tech, we do have a podcast which we do most weeks. Yeah. And it's not on the main channel. We've got a separate channel for it. So you find it on youtube.com/theconstantgeekery podcast. We'd appreciate some subscriptions and come along and join in. Yeah, we enjoy the comments, and we try to find things interesting to feature every week. I imagine next week we'll be again talking about this once we've had time to distill and let everything settle.
It'll be entitled "I ordered the wrong MacBook Pro," probably, won't it?
Yeah. Sunday Racers is worried that you might have missed one of your jokes, Pete.
Don't worry.
You missed nothing. You missed nothing.
You missed a joke, but don't worry.
Well, calling it a joke is possibly a stretch.
An attempt at a joke.
So someone else is asking about the screens. Brandon, what is the difference between a 13-inch Retina and the 14 or 16-inch liquid Retina displays? They are completely different because they're now mini LED. Yeah, and perhaps we should talk about that for a moment. There's a higher resolution as well, and their
brighter
aspect ratio is different.
Brighter, better contrast, massive difference in contrast, and potentially a shadow around the bezel.
Yeah, it's basically the same display that's in the M1 iPad Pro, which I have in front of me here. And the mini LEDs don't go all the way to the edge of the display, so you get this kind of shadow just around the edge of the bezels. So I'm kind of hoping that the new MacBook doesn't have that. So they're much better displays, and now the 14-inch has as many pixels as the old Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro. But it is a different aspect ratio, and how useful that top row of pixels is going to be, considering the notch, is another question. Could we have randoms coming up? I think. Is there any competitor coming with comparable ARM-based PCs? Yes. They probably would like a longer answer than
that. Yeah, I think they probably would.
Well, Apple's lead architect, who worked on the underpinnings or the stuff that came before M1, so the cores that went in M1, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he went and started a new company along with some other members of Apple's team.
We have
and-
talked about him before, haven't we?
Yeah, is it Nuvia? I think that's the company he started, and Qualcomm bought the company and hired this team. So Qualcomm now have the team that basically started Apple's M chip journey. How long will it take them to produce something for Qualcomm? I don't know. That wasn't Nuvia's original goal, was it? They set out to produce server chips because Apple wasn't interested in that space. Qualcomm certainly aren't interested in server chips. Primarily, they want to bring laptop chips, and they are, of course, partnered with Microsoft. So there is ARM versions of Windows. There are Surface Pro X's, which have the SQ1 and SQ2 chips in, which Microsoft did with Qualcomm. They're nowhere near as good as M1 yet, but will they get there? Maybe. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see it coming.
Just try and find his name because it's really bothering me now, but I can't find it for the looking. We have talked about him at length.
We did a podcast about it, actually. So, yeah, if you check out the podcast
Gerard
channel,
Williams.
that's the chat. Yeah, and they are. Ed's put it in the comments.
Thank you, Ed.
Well done, Ed.
Yeah, appreciate that.
He got, there is an ongoing court case and stuff about it. So there we go. What else have we got here? Any more comments we want to feature, or should we talk a bit more about stuff?
Let's talk about stuff. Let's talk about the webcam, because we live in a world where video conferencing is the de rigueur now. So a 1080p camera with a f2.0 aperture, larger sensor, 2 times better performance in low light, plus all the ML computational processing that you get from a
So it'll
Apple
be
silicon
able
chip.
to make you look good now.
No, but what it will do is it will make my surroundings look better, and it will be better for video conferencing. So that's really good. Interestingly, though, no mention of center stage.
Oh, I did wonder whether we would get center stage, but then I guess maybe they need to hold back some features to keep you buying your iPad as well as your MacBook Pro. Yeah, well, you're buying a Pro machine these days, a 1080p camera. I mean, that's the minimum expectation, surely.
And studio quality mics.
Studio quality mic. Well, actually, they did say 60% improve or 60% lower noise floor on the microphone. So that's just the noise you get when you plug in the microphone. So to have less of it, that's good.
That's good. Good speakers as well. They said that it can because they're larger, the woofers displace more air, and you can hear half an octave lower.
It's a better frequency response. It's the way everyone else would say it, but Apple say half an octave lower. Yeah,
but to the non-initiated, that's a more accessible way of explaining it, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably is. And I like the way they pictured it as well. They showed the woofer moving more air, but the current speakers in the MacBook Pro and indeed the iPad Pro are absolutely astonishingly good. So these are going to be really, really good. And a headphone jack. We do like a headphone jack. I like a headphone jack with support for high impedance headphones as well. So if you're a bit of an audiophile and you've got some high impedance headphones, well, you'll be able to use them with your.
Is that a bit like impedance? Because it sounded like you said impotence. I know you didn't.
High levels of impotence. Yes.
Interesting comment from David here, who is saying, "I love how this laptop is measurably better than the previous model, yet people are still losing control because of the price of it." I think you've actually got a point there. We are getting a massive step up. Whether you need it or not, let's just put that aside for it. The step up in performance, does it justify the step up in price?
Well, somebody put a comment up earlier. I saw it flash by that it's like a lot cheaper than the equivalent. Well, there isn't an equivalent Intel, but it is cheaper than what Apple used to charge. I mean, fully loaded, I seem to recall the 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro. You could get that up to significantly more than £3,600.
Yeah.
What's the delivery looking like now on your?
Well, that's what I'm just trying to work out. 8th to the 11th of November. That's for a 14-inch M1 Max with the 32-core GPU, 64 gig of memory because I need it. It's got the accessory kit with it as well, which is basically a box. So
okay.
Yeah.
William Green says, "Guys, does this finally mean we can walk down the street gaming?" I imagine you can if you can joggle your laptop. You certainly won't need to be plugged into a power supply like you need to be on many PC gaming notebooks.
No. absolutely. And you can definitely now color grade and edit professional video in the park.
I'm getting corrected about my pronunciation of the word impedance. My apologies. My apologies.
Good point from Sunday Racer. It's not a pound to dollar ratio at the moment. That's true. So
no,
that's pretty good.
Well, they typically don't on the more expensive stuff. There's a sort of crossover point at about 700, 800 pounds, isn't there, where they start doing it. So we've got another comment about pricing here. Sorry, I can't even pronounce English words, so you got no
Your
chance,
stuff,
I'm afraid.
basically.
Yeah. It was the comment above I was looking at, but let's go with this one. That is a spec'd out 16-inch M1X MacBook Pro, easily surpasses 5,000 euros. I had some hope these machines would be a little cheaper because of the new lack of the Intel tax.
Yeah, but you've got to. I'm not defending Apple here. These are expensive machines, but they are targeted at pros. You've got a serious performance improvement here. These are serious machines, and Apple have invested to make that happen. As you said earlier, this is quite a special day for Apple. So in some ways, yeah, there's no Intel tax, but are they worth it? You've got to make that decision for yourself, but you're not getting anything shabby here. You are getting a top-notch piece of kit.
I think so. Got another very kind donation from Mile High D5280. Catchy name, and you're very kind. Thank you very much. That's 16 inches a beast and weighs a lot more than my 2014 MacBook Pro. Yeah, they are big. Your 16-inch Intel one is big. It's too big for me.
Yeah.
I'm going with the 14-inch 10-core CPU, 16-core GPU, 32 gig of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD. It will outperform a base iMac Pro for half the price. Yeah, I think I haven't had enough time to look at it, and someone asked this question earlier, but that's probably going to be the sweet spot, isn't it? That exact spec, because you're getting enough of the extra performance. I mean, and unless you're a professional with a specific need for the additional graphic performance, why would you go for the 32 core GPU? 32 gigs of RAM will be more than enough for the vast majority of uses, and a terabyte of SSD. What more do you want?
And like you say, outperforming a base iMac Pro, which is no slouch even now. That puts it into context. I think when you think about what was the iMac Pro base, is it $5,000?
Yeah,
something like that. That puts into context the prices you're looking at here, and it's portable. And I think that 14-inch is the winner. It's going to be great. Like you say, it weighs a bit more, so you can still hit people around the back of the head with it, which is really useful.
Excellent. Here's a comment from Brian Thomas. Can we have that one up? Thanks, Erin. Just doing a great job here. Should I go for the MacBook M1 or MacBook M1 Pro as a student? What are you a student of? If you're just doing, if you're looking for a device to take to university or college to type up notes for lectures, do dissertations and that kind of thing, why would you need more than M1?
Yeah, save your money. But
yeah,
if you want to comment and tell us what you're studying, that may have a bearing.
Yeah,
if you're doing, if you're doing something in the creative field where you are editing and that kind of thing, that might change it. This notch is becoming very divisive, isn't it? Some people are saying it's a deal breaker.
Well, you are going to have dark mode on, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of dark mode.
I have to say, I always was a fan of dark mode, and I've recently gone back to the light side.
Have you?
But you know me, Pete. I like a bit of variety, so I'll probably embrace the dark side again at some point.
So, Brian, you're studying medicine, so I would guess, unless there's lots of, if you're doing sort of medical science and things like that, where you're plugging into goodness knows what, I would say, based on what you've told us there, an M1 will be more than enough for you, and you'll be delighted with it.
Yeah, you really will. Excellent. Notch is not a deal breaker when you have it in front of you. Yeah, I suspect that's true. It's one of those difficult things that you kind of need to see it and work with it and see whether or not it's something that fades into obscurity. Because when they first brought out the notch on the iPhone, I was not happy about that at all.
Oh, you kept moaning about it.
I like to moan about things, and now I don't even notice it. So is it the same? Why did they do it? Just to get the bezel smaller? I'm I mean, it is quite intrusive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a lot of these things, though. It's just different. You
Mm.
know, we'll get used to it. I'm not defending it. Can't run VMs still, so need to get a Ryzen 5700 just because I have to run labs for my cybersecurity training.
Yeah, that's one of the issues that we've got with M1 and R developers at the moment. There's just a few, and it's not a lot now, but there are still a few roadblocks in their workflow that are all to do with virtualization. Yeah. There's a couple of, let's just talk a little bit more. Let's talk about something we missed on the screen. I think is the fact it's got 120 hertz ProMotion display.
Yeah, same as in the iPhone.
So this is an adaptive display. ProMotion is adaptive, so it will, if you're doing a lot of scrolling or you've got something moving fast across the screen, it will increase the refresh rate of the screen. Otherwise, it will slow it down to save on battery. That's something that's really good on a phone and on a tablet, but you might not want it on your laptop if you're doing video editing. For example, you might want to lock in a specific frame rate, and they did take pains to say that you can do that. So you can lock it down to 60 hertz or something if that's what you want to work with. There's an interesting comment. Can we have David Stevenson's comment up? If you've got a Logitech camera clipped to the top of your display, you already have a notch.
Yeah. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I've held off getting a new webcam because I knew I'd probably be getting one of these. So what was the point in getting a better webcam? But that would have just had the same effect. So.
Sunday Racers, let's have that comment up because here's a good one. Intel 16-inch has been completely removed from the Apple Store. Where does Apple unload its old stock? Good question. So the first place to go and have a look is Amazon, Apple Store on Amazon, but also look to big resellers. So in the UK, places like Jigsaw 24, for example, they'll buy up the obsolete stock. I mean, basically, as soon as it's no longer current, then Apple will not sell it via their stores and their website, and they do send it off to larger retailers who'll buy bulk quantities, sometimes in custom specs as well. Yeah. I've had a couple of laptops like that from Jigsaw 24, so hopefully that helps. If you search, you can find them.
Robert Munnelly, thank you very, very much for your
very kind
comments and donation. Really appreciate that. That's very, very generous of you. Aaron, could you just scroll up just at the
Best
top there?
Apple podcast on YouTube.
That is quite some high praise there.
That's
really good. So
thank you very much.
We'll try and keep up that standard. FK, I am a PhD student working mathematical optimization. Do you think 16 gig of RAM will be enough for that, considering SSD speed if swap happens?
Difficult to answer without knowing your exact workflow
and the software you're using.
And this is not my area of expertise, mathematical optimization or pronunciation, apparently. But I don't have many areas of expertise, let's be honest.
It is an interesting one. I mean, it's quite niche, but maybe if there's enough people out there, because we've had 2 medical students now asking about this sort of thing, maybe if you let us know what software you're doing, if you email.
Once we've got machines, we'd be happy to test stuff. Yeah, we'll be looking for things to test. Will 16 gig of RAM be enough? Well, don't know the answer to that. The SSD speed, if swap happens, that is pretty fast. On the M1 machines, you don't really notice the swap happening. I mean, it is happening, but you don't notice it in terms of the way the computer feels when you're using it. And so I would have thought it'd be even better on these chips with these even faster SSDs, and Apple's doing something smart with those SSDs. They must be. And
also a lot more memory options.
Just want to say thank you to I'll do pronunciation again. Arjen van Voigt. Oh, we both thought it was the same. Yeah.
Thank you for the
thank you very
donation.
Much.
Really appreciate it. You guys have been so generous tonight. Thank you. Yeah. We don't do this for the money. We do it because we love tech and geekery and that kind of stuff. But it certainly helps. It certainly helps.
Yeah, it's very kind. Excellent. A couple of other things then from the specs and other things. The performance was quite interesting because they're talking about this chip being 2 times better than the Core i9 that you could get in the 16-inch. In fact, we had a 15-inch MacBook Pro with that Core i9 in.
Yes.
So I would have expected it to be more than 2 times faster. I don't know which chip they're talking about there, but that's
Yeah.
still really impressive. So we're talking about an 8-core, that's top of Intel's mobile
And that would
chips.
have been plugged in.
Yeah.
That would have been plugged in.
Although it was was it a 9th gen? It might have been a 9th gen. It wasn't the latest 11th gen, which Intel has taken quite a leap forward with their 11th gen chips. They say in the Pro, we did that. The 14-inch can have the max CPU, and I think that's amazing. The fact that you can get the identical spec basically, and then choose your chassis size.
Yeah, that's a big thing, because I've been saying all along I was veering towards the 14-inch because I've got the 13-inch MacBook Air with the M1 in it, and I do like the size. It's just a tiny bit small, but just that extra inch will make the difference in terms of screen size. But I was probably expecting to have to go for the 16-inch because I was expecting not to be able to get the spec. But here I have got one spec'd up with everything I could possibly want and more than I could ever need.
Pretty nice.
What colour are you going to go for, guys? What do you prefer? Is everyone getting a bit bored of space grey, do you think?
I think I might try a silver this time. I got Tom an iPad back along, and he went for silver, and I've been sort of quietly coveting it.
Good question here that seems to be getting some interest from Sylvian Blade. Will Apple make an M1 Pro / Max iMac Pro 27-inch? I don't think it'll be a 27-inch, but I think there will be a bigger iMac on the way.
Well, I think it would probably fit. Well, it'd be 30 or 32, wouldn't it?
That's rubles.
Wow.
But still, thank you very much.
Pete's having a panic attack here. Wow, amazing. Thank you, Sober Hippie. Appreciate that very much. Really kind.
I love it.
American podcast.
Keep the money rolling in, guys.
Sorry, we're not doing it for the money.
Terribly,
we haven't even
sorry.
done any product placement to undermine your statement that we don't do it for the money. But
no
one
apart
buys
from the ridiculous T-shirt you've been wearing,
the
and
T-shirt
a
and the
few
mug,
people have made comments about.
You can buy your own if you want, but you don't need to because we're British.
Absolutely, absolutely. We like our mugs. You don't need to have one.
How about this then? On the Max chip with that GPU, 30 streams of 4K ProRes 422 can be edited simultaneously.
Yeah.
That is quite something.
And we will be testing that.
We will be testing that indeed. Jan, very kind of you. Thank you. Listen to the Constant Geekery and Mac Break weekly podcast. Simply the best 2 Apple podcasts. Great work. And now I'm poor. Sorry to have made you poor.
Feeling very guilty now.
Thank you.
Honestly,
thank you. Really do appreciate
you guys
it.
are amazing.
And we'll just give the podcast another plug in case anyone's joined us since then. I don't even know how many people are on. But if you go to youtube.com/the Constant Geekery podcast, or go to the main channel page and it's linked from there. You can find our podcast. You'll also find it if you just search Constant Geekery on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere.
Yeah,
we're there.
Have a listen.
Yeah.
Jonas, another
Jonas,
kind donation. Thank you very much. Really
And,
appreciate that.
I recognise the name as a long-time subscriber of the channel. Thank you, Jonas. Will the redesigned Mac Mini come? When will it come? I had half a mind to think it was going to come today, but and then someone else has said November event. I've seen that go in the comments.
Which you could see they focused on laptops and portability today. Could we be seeing a desktop event coming before the end of the year where they'll do Mac Mini, iMac, maybe even the first Pro machine? That's probably a stretch, the first Pro machine, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
I would like to see a desktop between the Mac Mini and the Mac Pro. And I did a bit of a sort of tongue-in-cheek, slightly silly video, 3 products Apple should make. And I suggested they should maybe make a smaller one that's x86 based so that we can spec it up. So I'm going to have all sorts of people ridiculing that because it is a frankly ludicrous suggestion given what we've just seen. That doesn't answer your question, Jonas. When will it come? I think it'll be before WWDC. I absolutely think Apple will make a version of the Mini with a more powerful chip in. Who knows?
Javier says, you guys are boring. Where is Erin?
Tom, switch the camera around.
I'm hiding.
There she is.
She's there. She's still there, unfortunately.
There you go.
Rude.
That's it.
That's done. But we're not here to talk about Erin. We're here to talk about high performance things.
Speaking of high performance, Mike Newmeyer saying, will Apple find a way to put 2 or more of these chips in the Mac Pro that can share the same unified RAM? I would have thought so.
I think they could, but I don't think they will. They seem to be all about getting it on the same package.
It's going to be a big package.
It's going to be a big package. You just couldn't help yourself.
I couldn't. I'm sorry.
Color grading 8K on a battery. Let's just think about that for a minute in real time.
Yeah, if you've never done any video editing, and if you're watching YouTube tech channels, you're probably fed up of people talking about video editing. But obviously, it's something we do, so it's nice to talk about it. 8K video is brutal, absolutely brutal. You need a mammoth machine to really handle that stuff. So to be able to color grade it and the way it was happening real time and stuff, that is a game changer. I mean, you know, being able to do that, imagine being able to do that on set.
Well, yeah, you can see the daily rushes being more than just a quick scamp. They're going to be graded. They're going to be almost there on set. It's going to be amazing. It's going to make people's workflows just revolutionary. Sharon B, thank you very much.
Thank you. Very kind of you. And there's a comment just below that from Key Lu. If the menu bar is long and touches the notch, how will those menu items be displayed? Yeah, don't know. I'm slightly concerned by it because it seems to me that for the proportion of the screen, the notch is just maybe a little bit higher than the menu bar would normally be. So they're making it maybe a bit taller. Perhaps I got that wrong. But then it's smack right in the middle. What happens to menu options that are then right? Or I suppose they'll just work it in software, won't they? So they'll move
the operating system will know it's there
and will move it.
So it will deal with it. Apple will deal with it gracefully. You know they will.
Yeah.
Or there'll be a bug and they won't, and it'll be the next thing people are up in arms about. I have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Anna Simeon says, I'm surprised there wasn't a bigger price hike considering the breadth of features. These machines are great value for money. I think that's a pretty accurate comment, to be honest with you. We are talking about machines that will particularly, these are for pro users. Time is money. You know, if you're doing video, if you're doing music production, or anything that uses these sort of computationally intense processes, anything that slows you down is dead time, it's dead money. Whereas this is going to speed you up. They're going to pay for themselves, I would say.
Yes, I think so. I mean, let's just do that. I mean, because I should imagine a lot of our audience are pro users, but I would think just as many are consumers. And when you go to buy, let me just pause that thought. I'll come back to it because SEJN has very, very kindly donated €4.99. That's really kind of you. Thank you. Imagine trying to realistically explain all these M1 Pro and M1 Max configs in real world comparisons. Yeah, I'm a little bit.
We're going to have a field day.
I'm not looking forward to it. The amount of content we're going to
need some help, aren't you? Shame I'm busy for the next few months.
Well, by the look of it, everyone will have done it for me anyway by the time we get asked, so I won't worry about it. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. It will be a challenge. I think maybe a buying guide is probably a useful thing.
Chris Ware, who I know is a keen Mac user, says too many apps rely on icons in the menu bar. I agree. It'd be nice if they were compressed like Windows does. I think, that could well be something that they've got in mind.
Listen, let me circle back to the point I was about to make on pricing. So if Apple knows this as well, if you're talking professional, then you're talking about a business owner, generally speaking. So if you're not familiar with this as a consumer, then let's take the UK example. So the price of the MacBook we were looking at, I don't know, what was it? I've got one up on the screen for a spec for £2,800.
Hi there from all the iCave Dave listeners that are coming in now and have been told to say hi.
Okay.
Nice to have you with us.
Welcome. I wonder if Dave himself might be turning up. I can see him there. I'll just finish what I'm saying, then we'll get Dave on because I'm interested to hear what you think, Dave. So for a professional user, so when we're buying kit for our business, we look at the price of it, and the first thing we do is take off the sales tax. So in the UK, that's 20%. So you take your £2,800. I'm actually going to get my calculator out here just to do this because it's quite surprising. You might find it surprising if you're a consumer. So let's say £2,800. If I take off the VAT, which we can claim back from the government, we're down to 2,333. Now, the value then of that piece of kit, we're going to write that down in our accounts over a period of time, three years, probably 5 years, something like that. So we can get back the corporation tax on that as well. So at the moment, that's 19%, but shortly going up to 25%. But let's just, if I times that by 0.81, so the actual price of your £2,800 laptop is £1,890. And that's where Apple is going with this, I think, with Pro machines, that people are going to be able to make those kind of savings, and it makes a massive difference. So when we're buying for business, we do get it a lot cheaper. Hopefully that helps to explain the pricing.
Thank you, FK, for your kind donation and lovely words. Really appreciate that.
Yeah,
lots of love and appreciation, and we really appreciate you guys all listening in and being here with us tonight. We've had at peak, we've had over 500 people, so that's fantastic. We're still well over 400, and we've got IK Dave, who's actually Dave. He looks like he's gone to the loo. He's not quite there at the moment. He's back. I didn't catch you out there.
Put my earpiece in so that we can hear Dave. So are you ready to come on, Dave? He's nodding. Let's do this.
Hello.
Yes. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
How are we doing? Sorry, I had to run round because my son's iPad kept connecting to my AirPods. So I had to turn off his Bluetooth. That was the issue that we were experiencing there. Because when I was streaming on my own, nothing to feed back.
No, exactly.
We've tried to go a little bit more high tech. We've dug out our 3.5 mil.
Don't show them.
Beautiful.
So we don't have to. The problem we had last time is, of course, there was an echo going on. So hopefully the sound is okay. Yeah. Jayanth has just said a fine gathering of people. How very kind of you.
Oh, he's talking about us. Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm pleased to have you on, Dave. And are you feeling better, mate? Because I heard that you had the dreaded lurg.
I did. I was out of action for a few days. I think I only missed one show, because I was kind of quarantining in the iCave before it had its new coat of paint, which it's looking a bit prettier now. It's the same background color as yours.
It's nice.
Yeah,
not just grey. Yeah,
it's good
taste.
Yeah, it's nice. Very good. So come on, Dave. Notch. Let's start with that. That's the important thing, isn't it? Are you? Some people are bitterly disappointed by the notch. Are you in that camp, or are you gonna?
No, there isn't a notch. I don't know what you're talking about. I was looking at it, and what they've done, they explained this in the in the presentation itself, I think, and they didn't add a notch to it. They pushed up the screen into the top bezel.
My mistake. Sorry.
So you've not lost.
What you're saying is that the bezel was there all along. It's actually the screen that's the problem.
Yeah. There's just some of the old bezel is left over for where the camera is, because you can't cut that bit out, can you? So they made it. They've done a really good job there.
I like it. I like it. Evan Rogers, thank you very much for your donation. That's very kind of you. And you're also asking which new MacBook should viewers buy and why. So I think this is a great question for us all to talk around, doesn't it?
Okay, I'm going to do the quick answer to this.
Let me guess. Is it 2 words?
Well, it was going to be more than 2 words.
It depends.
It depends. Well, yeah. The best one for your use case, or the one that you want. It's your money. Spend it how you like. That's what I say to everybody. And, I've got a vanity computer that's got way more spec than I'm ever going to use. But it's what I wanted, and I'm happy to pay for it. So that's my business. So
you're loving that 286, aren't you?
It's got quite some poke to it. Yeah. Excellent. What do you think, Pete?
It does depend. It depends on, first of all, what can you afford? What you are doing with that machine. We all have things, I know my brother, he does clay pigeon shooting. He spends a lot of money on that hobby.
He probably wants to get some clays instead of using MacBook Airs to shoot.
Yeah, they are more cost effective. But my point is that is his hobby, and it's also his profession. Okay, so he goes to town on that sort of thing. If you enjoy computing, if you enjoy using your Mac and you can afford to, fill your boots with what you want. If you're a professional and you're going to see a performance gain in your workflow from this sort of thing, get what you can afford. If you are, we had a question from someone earlier who's a student. They're using it to write their dissertation, that kind of thing. Probably don't need more than an M1. But if you want an M1 Pro or an M1 Max and you can afford it, go for it.
What do you say, Dave?
To most people, I would say MacBook Air with an M1 in it. For the vast majority of people, that is still the right computer to get. For the kind of people that are on a stream with yourselves or with me, they probably want something with Pro or Max at the end of the name. And the number of people that were coming into the stream saying, I've just ordered this, I've just ordered that. I've just ordered some AirPods. That's what I've ordered. I've ordered the new AirPods, and that's all I've got, because the Mac that I wanted didn't arrive today. The Mac that I wanted was a Mac Mini.
Interesting. We'll talk about that in a moment, Dave. But first of all, the burning question that I have is which color of HomePod Mini did you go for?
Oh, HomePod Minis. That red one is quite lovely.
Well, yeah, we were saying earlier how sorry we felt for the guy who had to present these. that was a raw
the
deal.
excitement. The excitement. Yes, you've got a slot on the Apple event. It's to announce some colors.
Yeah. Well,
That's all.
As soon as they'd done that, though, I was like, surely they're going to give us colors in the AirPods. Because as soon as you said music and, I was convinced that we were getting our AirPods. We got our AirPods, which is great, because it wasn't a foregone conclusion. The only AirPods that have ever been in a keynote were the originals. They never launched the Pros, the Macs at a keynote.
I think they were just doing that to. I think they were just doing that to lull Intel into a false sense of security. They're only doing HomePods and AirPods. It's fine. There was a really good comment just a bit further up from Mike Newmeyer, Erin. That one there, which I think is worth talking about. No, the one below, that one. That's it. How many more products does Apple have to update for their full 2-year transition? Because as Tim pointed out, they're 1 year through a 2-year transition. That's interesting in itself, because we've always wondered when did they start? When did they think the transition started from? Was it WWDC 2020, or was it from when the M1 was announced about this time last year?
Well, I think they've carefully manipulated that to their benefit, haven't they? So they've added a bit of time on.
They have drawn a line in the sand now, because they said we're 1 year through our 2-year transition.
And they wouldn't do that unless they knew they could do it. But which products are left? Mac Pro, yes. iMac Pro, whether or not they'll do another iMac Pro is a question. But the larger iMac is still to do.
And if it's got the sort of specs that we've seen today, it will completely take an iMac Pro, smash it into pieces, wipe the floor with it, and then blast it into atoms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Mac Mini, which is what you wanted, Dave. And I thought we might see a more powerful Mac Mini, because they're still selling. I assume they're still selling the Intel Mac Mini, the more powerful version.
Mm-hmm. So
which bizarrely isn't powerful.
The one thing that I noticed about this event was that it was 50 minutes long, and generally these have typically been around an hour. So I wonder if there was an intention to have a Mac Mini here that maybe had to get pulled out, because Dylan DKT on Twitter, who's one of the kind of leakers of the moment, had mentioned that they were rushing to try and get it ready. I think that there's a decent possibility that they wanted to and couldn't.
We've seen a few comments to that effect on the stream here this evening, so I think you might be onto something there.
Do we think that it's got anything to do with the silicon shortage, and maybe they're just prioritizing these new MacBooks? Although I think you're of the opinion that they already had all of this stuff made, aren't you?
Certainly in terms of the cores, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, which I've now got to get my head around using those words instead of M1X. M1 MacBook Pro Max. It's a silly naming scheme, I think, but I'm sure we'll get used to it pretty quickly. Yeah, and I think those chips have been ready since April, May time, and I do think they were intending to bring these at WWDC, and that there were the delays more with the displays than anything else, especially having seen what they've done with the displays. There's a lot more going on there than we expected. I don't think until last week anyone really expected ProMotion. Great to see that coming to it. Great to see the extra resolution, like the fact that the 14-inch has got more pixels to it than the old 16-inch. Very, very nice. These are going to be absolutely stunning. One of the things that I did notice as well with these is the design, that kind of radius that they've got at the bottom, really reminds me of the old school polycarbonate Macs, the MacBooks.
Yeah, we said the same thing.
Yeah, everyone seems to be getting that vibe.
Yeah, there's a lot of retro vibes going on in design in general with Apple at the moment. That I think the M1 iMacs, when those came out in April time, those are very much throwbacks to that G3. And the G3 iMac sort of opened the event as well with that music montage, which I thought was excellent, by the way. I thought it was a really good opening.
Yeah, it's one of the best for a while, for sure.
A little bit of nostalgia for me as well, because I had one of those in that color. So that was one of my first Macs.
Tears were shed. That's true to say.
Somebody said, I think it was Madison 10, said that the event was only 50 minutes because they put a notch in the hour. So that's quite
very good. Very good. There was a comment a bit further up, which I thought was interesting, from Elliot. He was talking about gaming. It's a bit further up, Aaron. We've had a few since then. Yeah, that's the one. Do you think the gaming industry is going to quickly shift towards much more Mac development now?
Yeah.
I got the sense that Apple were kind of setting their stall out for that, didn't you? There's some pretty impressive stuff there.
Yeah, there's other stuff going on. I think Dave might know the answer to that question.
Would you be referring to what Steam has been doing? Yeah, so Steam has got their Steam Deck coming fairly soon, before Christmas, and that uses a Linux operating system. And Molten VK and the kind of stuff they've been doing with Vulkan is quite transferable, let's say, which would allow a lot of Windows software games to run using, basically it translates it into Metal, as far as I can tell. That's my very high level understanding of it. It's not in any detailed way, but that's kind of what they've done with iOS already, I believe. So that framework already exists, and I really hope that it comes in a big way to the Mac, because it would just be absolutely insane to see the amount of power that we've got in these new MacBooks, that I think everyone was just jaws on the floor when we saw the vague graphs that have been produced to bait Linus Tech Tips. I'm really looking forward to his videos.
It's quite something. I mean, Apple have got to go for the gaming industry. Apple makes a huge amount of money out of gaming. I saw a stat the other day that Apple makes more out of gaming than Microsoft and Sony put together.
And Nintendo.
And Nintendo, yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, I think they know it's a core demographic. Intel keeps trying to needle that one. I think they're going to have to come up with some new advertising. Well, I thought that before, but yeah, I think gaming is definitely going to come. Someone was saying something about availability of these in the comments section. Do we think it's going to be like a PS5, Xbox Series X situation where you can't get hold of them? Well, you can order it right now. I mean, we've been watching obviously we've been live streaming, so we haven't had a chance to order yet, and the delivery dates are slipping out. Pete's nervously hovering over the buy button on his iPad.
Well, I'm just looking now at the MacBook Pro page. The 14-inch models are still saying on the base level it ships by October the 25th still. Okay. And on the upgraded one, because there are some interesting omissions in the base version, being an 8-core CPU, 14-core GPU. The upgraded one that comes with the full-on M1 Pro, I think. It's so hard to navigate this at the minute until we get our heads around it. Saying 1 to 2 weeks, so it's not slipped out far.
No, I'm seeing Tuesday, 26th of October on the 14-inch 10-core, 16-core GPU and 16 gigs of RAM.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Evan, thank you for your comment and your donation.
Thank you.
I want to make sure I get the right.
Yeah, but you can return it. That's the beauty with Apple. You get that 2-week return window, and what you'll be doing there is helping out all the people that want to buy a refurb one.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That's true. Unfortunately, Apple Pay is not set up for the right account at the moment, so we'll deal with that as soon as
the stream is over, we will deal with that situation, shall we say? I think we probably get something in for the channel. We'll probably get one of those models that's quickly available, and then figure out what it is that we actually want, because we can cycle the equipment through the business once I've finished playing with it and testing it. Yeah. So. Good. Silver seems quicker to get than space grey, Pete. So perhaps that's what you've got to do.
I have selected silver. Yeah, and I'm happy with that delivery date. It's not very long away.
It's only a few weeks. It's 3 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's fine. I mean, let's face it. There'll already be there's a review embargo that presumably is going to be lifted now. So there'll already be people out there with them ready to review them. Those will be going up in the next few days. So we'll do our usual constant geekery sort of objective testing, where we actually use them in real rather than going, this is amazing, without actually using it.
Yeah, and I just hope that that YouTubers just take a little bit more time this time. I mean, I think that the coverage of the M1, it was rushed. A lot of people are, because and I understand it, you got to rush to get your review out, to get it out first, to get the clicks, to get the revenue and all the rest of it. But there was some pretty bad advice going out with people saying buy the base level MacBook Air to do your 6K video editing and stuff. It's just, yeah, crazy. Of course, that probably won't matter this time, because they're so powerful. What do you think about the battery life?
From my side,
it's pretty +7 on the 14-inch, so 17 hours of video playback.
So that's compared to the Intel version.
Yeah. These are all compared to the Intel version. An extra 10, so 21 hours of video playback on the 16-inch version. But they did use some real life examples. So they said, basically on battery life, you can edit for 2 times longer in Lightroom. A coder can code for 4 times longer on Xcode.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, that's if you're coding in a coffee shop or, out and about, that's great.
You do that. If you're up an escalator doing video editing, which apparently is what some Apple customers do.
But, if you're out seeing a client and you want to do some coding on the change, if you're a contractor, that kind of thing. Or, if you've done a photo shoot, you think about our photographer friend, do a photo shoot, and you can then actually edit on site, at the venue. That's what it's all about these days. My AirPods keep coming out.
So here's the thing. Then they spoke about additional Thunderbolt controllers. Now, as I understand it, the M1 already has 2 Thunderbolt controllers, and they've added 1 more Thunderbolt port. So when they say additional Thunderbolt controllers, what do they mean by that? Shouldn't they have said additional Thunderbolt controller, singular? What do you think, Dave?
I wonder if the other ports that we have, the HDMI port, the SD card reader, and what else have we got? MagSafe. That probably doesn't use a lot of data. But no. I wonder if it's basically acting as an internal hub. So it's a Thunderbolt port that's splitting into those 2.
That would make sense. And then it also, because of course with Thunderbolt you can daisy chain as well, can't you? So to get those additional displays up. I mean, I noticed from a lot of the content that I produced about M1, a huge number of people were commenting about the limitations on external displays being a big issue to them. I've not personally ever connected my laptop to more than 1 external display, so it doesn't bother me, but I know
some of our developers do.
They do, yeah. And so it's a real issue for some people. But on this Pro chip now, you can have 2 displays, and I think there will still be some people who aren't satisfied with that either. And they'll have to go to Max
to get the 3 plus the TV.
Mm-hmm.
But it's 2 6K displays. You might be able to daisy chain more smaller displays. Maybe.
Yeah. Chris Ware is saying he's got 2 displays and he'd love more. Noted.
The other option,
someone's saying the M1 has only 1 Thunderbolt chip. Cine chimp. You
can't manage big data.
Yeah, the other option I was going to say with needing more displays is, of course, you can just have more Macs and use universal control across them now. So you.
That's true. Or grow another arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy.
Should you get a 3.5 $1,000 plus machine insured. I want it to last me 5 to 10 years. You should take whatever precautions you think are wise for your use case and what you can afford. So, yeah, if you want it to last that long and you want some kind of warranty, get some Apple Care on it. I don't know if Apple Care extends.
Yeah, I
that
was just
long,
gonna check. Well, Apple Care's 3 years, isn't it?
They've changed it recently so that you can pay for it year by year now.
Interesting.
So
I noticed they whacked the price up on the phones, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that now you can pay for it annually. But I would say as well, if you are going to buy a £3,500 or $3,500 computer, like towards the end of that time period, it's going to be slow as molasses, regardless of what it is. It's not going to be something that you're going to enjoy using. So I would say go for a $3,500 computer, and as often as you can sell on an upgrade, because then you're basically renting. You're probably going to lose on something of that sort of price range, $300, $400 over a year in value depreciation. So if you're renting a computer of that kind of speed for $300 or $400 a year, that seems like a pretty good way of doing it.
Yeah, I think so. Our experience here, I mean, with our web studio, I don't know how many computers we've bought and sold. Lots, more than 100 Macs. And what we find is Macs hold their value. So if you work to, we either work to a 3-year or a 5-year life cycle on most of our machines. But at the 3-year point, you can typically sell your Mac and get back half what you paid for it. If not a little bit more sometimes, depending on which model it is. If it's one of the very common models, you won't get quite so much. That's been our experience. So we typically work on that exact basis, that you've got to keep paying because you've got to, you're going to need to have an upgrade. And yeah, move it on, use it as the funding for the next one, and like Dave says, spread the cost, maybe even finance it.
Yeah.
I've got to say thank you to Bert for your super sticker.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Really appreciated.
Dave, you've got to go.
Out. Yeah, it's just my wife's out teaching dance tonight, so I'm in charge of the kids. One's asleep, the other one wants me to sort his bed out. So I'm going to have to say thank you and catch you all guys later. Thank you everyone in the chat. Support these guys; they're doing amazing work, and I can't wait to see your thoughts when you've actually got hands on it, because I ain't going to have it for a while.
Okay.
Thanks, iCave Dave. Lovely to have you join us, and many of your subscribers too. Stick around if you can. I think we've still got quite a lot listening in. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, we know.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, SEJN.
Sorry, hang on a minute. That was Erin. She did it to you again, Dave. I can't believe it. She just cut you off.
I'm so sorry.
She sucks.
Well, she's
Honestly.
used to us doing it to her.
This is what I'm talking about. She can't be trusted to operate a computer. Thanks so much, Dave. We really appreciate you coming on, mate. And if you're not subscribed to Dave's channel, please check him out. iCave Dave on YouTube. Loads of Apple content, really good quality. So yeah, please give Dave your support.
Yeah, he's a top chap. SEJN, thank you very much for your donation. We're hanging in here, buddy. Buy it. We will, honestly, afterwards. I need to do it after the event.
Yeah,
but we will be doing it. Don't worry.
Yeah, it will be happening.
Andy, sorry, let's go in order here. So Christopher Mahon, I guess suddenly getting all these lovely donations.
That's
thank
really
you very
kind
much.
Of you. Thank you.
Andy Gambino, thank you for your donation as well. It's the OS that will screw up if you have a Mac older than 5 years. Looks what happened to El Capitan users was yes.
Yeah. It's not just the hardware. And I keep saying this in my videos, and hardware is 50% of the equation. Oh yeah, good. And software is the other 50%. You can't use the hardware without the software, so you need to have the software support as well. That's not to say that one of these machines won't last 10 years. I'm sure it will. But yeah, it's all worth considering, isn't it?
Definitely.
Thank you very much, Andy. And we need to say thank you very much to Goob Film Cast as well. That's very kind of you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys have been exceedingly generous this evening. That's beyond expectations. So that's great.
Can we just have that comment up from Bert Lloyd as well? Because I think that's worth just looking at. Purchase the basic MacBook Pro. I think by that, I'm assuming you mean the M1, not a super user. Well, I think the M1 is brilliant for most people. So yeah, It's got more performance than most people will ever use. That's the reality. Yeah. Jayant, thank you. That's very kind of you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Very kind.
It's really good. I think we'll probably start thinking about wrapping up here because Pete is itching to get his device ordered. But,
I am itching, but that's not because of the dice.
And I think we've probably discussed all of this stuff as far as we can. I think what I would like to do is have a bit of time to digest it, and then maybe we'll come back and share some more consolidated thoughts after we've had time to ruminate on it, and maybe a bit more sort of buying guides and those kind of things. Which ones make the most sense? Where are the value propositions?
Yeah.
Just want to say thank you to Photo Vincent, again, a long-time subscriber to the channel. Thanks for helping me bite the bullet by firing up the geekery. These are some great machines to get excited about. They absolutely are, aren't they? I mean, after the last couple of events we've covered have been a little bit...
They've missed the mark, haven't they?
They have, and we were quite down after WWDC, I'll be honest. So we're excited about these ones again, and because it is a game-changing step in computing. Again,
it is. It's very cool.
Yeah, amazing. Someone's ordered a fully loaded one. Goodness me, you even went for the 4 terabyte SSD. That's Bo John in Australia. Wow.
Nice work.
You couldn't bring yourself to spend the extra $1,500 for. I assume that's Australian dollars.
Did you get the polishing cloth? $19 for the or £19. I don't know what it is in dollars.
Are you kidding?
No.
They charge you extra.
Yeah.
No, don't do it, folks. Honestly, the best thing to clean your displays with is a microfiber towel, a deep pile microfiber towel. The stuff that the one that always came with the Apple devices has that really thin pile. Those are no good. We used to call them eye rags.
Yeah, deep pile is what you want.
Deep pile, think like carpet. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, so it's been HDMI. Oh, this is interesting. Before I was about to wrap it up then for you, but HDMI seems to be 2, not 2.1.
Support for one display with 4K at 60. How do we feel about that? I think that's okay for an HDMI port. I mean, it's
not like you haven't got the other options, as we know. So I think it's a step forward. And it's one less dongle to think about, isn't it?
€25 for the polishing cloth. What? God damn it. Apple are getting hard up, honestly. They are down to their last trillion.
I saw you coming shop, doesn't it?
It does, honestly.
This has been a really exciting event.
Let's.
Okay.
Go on. We'll take.
Come on. We'll take a few more comments. They keep coming. They keep coming.
Yeah. So, comment from Tick. Hey boyos, sorry I'm late.
I love your handle.
Do you see any realistic difference between 64 and 32 on the M1 Max for gaming on parallels? When you say gaming on parallels, are you talking?
Do you mean dual boot?
Windows, because
that's not going to work, is it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you can even pass. I don't think you can do any GPU acceleration for Windows on M1 Max. And Microsoft seems to be actively trying to stop people running Windows on M1 Max. But I might have missed the point of your question there. Obviously, for general gaming, you are going to see a difference between 64 and 32 GPU cores for sure. And I assume you're talking about GPU and not memory. So there we go. That was useful. Great piece of advice here. Cine Chimp saying my 15-inch 2012 Retina costs 4,700 Australian dollars. Yeah, I remember when the first Intel MacBook Pros came out. I had a 17-inch with a Core 2 Duo, the mighty beast that it was.
The helicopter on it was massive.
Yeah, and I couldn't afford it. It was well over $2,000, and we're going back however many years that is, many years. And I took out finance for it. It took me 3 years to pay it off. So they've always been this kind of money. The top end machines have always been really expensive.
Yeah, because they are top end for the time.
Yeah, very good. Anyway, I'm flagging, and I feel like the quality will diminish. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please give that button a little tickle. We really appreciate it. Again, we've got a podcast channel as well, which is linked to from the main channel page. We podcast most weeks.
Yeah.
Not this week because I shall
No,
be
'cause we're
staying in
doing
bed
this.
tomorrow morning.
And crying about how much we're going to spend on M1 Pros and M1 Maxes, I expect. But that's youtube.com/The Constant Geekery podcast.
Yeah.
So it'd be great if you can join us there. We are planning to do, thank you, Stephen, who's just subscribed. We're planning to do more live episodes. So it's great to have so many of you with us tonight. Obviously, this is a special night. Thank you for staying with us and giving us your comments. Sorry we can't answer every question because I think there's been so much engagement this evening. It's really appreciated. So if we haven't answered your question or we've not spoken about your comment, they're just flying up. You can see that. Don't take it personally. We'd love to answer them all. We will try and consolidate questions and produce video content around it to answer those.
Absolutely. And I just got one little request, and that is if you're watching other small creators who are doing a good job and you'd like to see us do collabs with them, then send us some recommended channels. We'd like to have a few more guests on for live shows and that sort of thing. And I think small creators on YouTube often get a bit of it's a hard job. It's a really hard job making it on YouTube. So anything we can do to help the community grow, that would be good. There's some really good content out there that's just not getting surfaced by YouTube. Too many cat and fail videos.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there isn't. I spend a lot of my time watching those things. Which
someone's got to edit them with these Pro Max machines.
They have. So we're going to call it a night. Thanks everybody for joining us. Really do appreciate it. Thanks for all the kind donations. Absolutely blown away by that. Yeah. So thank you so much, and look forward to more content coming on the channel very soon. Have a good evening, everyone.
Cheerio.
Cheerio.